After I saw Star Wars The Last Jedi for the second time, I wanted to give myself some time to process everything and then give you a full review. Let me start off this video by saying spoiler alert. If you have not seen The Last Jedi, even if you're considering maybe you might see it, turn it off now. Do not watch the whole video until you have seen it. It's worth waiting for. So if you're watching right now, it means you've already seen The Last Jedi because spoilers are coming now. Now let's start off with some of those things that I thought were either a little bit off or didn't quite make sense, or I thought they could have changed to make it just a little bit better. The movie started off with that great dreadnought scene, and you see them bomb it and the different bombers are being lost and they get the dreadnought, which is really cool, and then they escape, and then they have that tracking system, so there's a storyline going on. But then in the middle of the movie they switch to another storyline, Rey and Kylo Ren a little bit, and then they go back and forth between the two stories throughout the movie. That's not unlike Star Wars. They have done that many times before. I thought it wasn't too difficult to follow. There were some segments where I thought it could have been just a tiny bit easier, but overall I could follow it no problem. Now if you're a Star Wars fan like me, I highly recommend you see the movie twice. When I saw it the first time, I kept thinking too much as I was watching. It's like, what does this mean? What is this going to lead to? How is this going to end? I kept overthinking it. I really couldn't enjoy it. It was the second time where I really had the chance to sit back, relax, and enjoy the whole story coming together. Near the beginning, we saw that Rey and Kylo Ren were connected via the Force. I don't really understand that. I don't know why it had to be there. I get that it added to the story and then it, brought them together and then they're apart again. I don't know, and I have a feeling this will tie in later, but that part, it kind of lost me a little bit. Like, you can see each other, but you can't really see what's around. It lost me a little bit. In the movie, we actually heard Kylo Ren say to Rey at one point, like, you can't be doing this, like, the power alone would kill you, or something like that. And then we find out later, Luke can do this because, he's projecting himself via the Force, which is awesome. Really, really cool. That being said, it's kind of hard to follow if you don't catch that line, like, you don't really understand. They tie it all together at the end, but my dad especially, he was saying, he's like, Michael, this doesn't make any sense. So Luke was projecting himself, he wasn't really there, I don't get it. So I understood it, but I totally understand the confusion because they kind of glossed over it really quickly in the beginning. Now I know that Star Wars movies have some action and some story and all that. I feel like in the middle they were kind of missing a little bit of action. I feel like, great story throughout, but in the middle there had to be just a little bit more, just a tiny bit more action in the middle, and it would have been like the perfect combination. Overall, I still loved it. I am not saying I didn't like it, it's just that middle, like there was a small gap in there. You're losing some people a little bit, you need a little bit more action. Now it's gonna take me a while to get used to some of these new planet locations, so excuse me about the names, but at the scene where you see Rey and Poe kind of trash that new area that's like the super rich and they're bad guys because they sell weapons, that point was a little bit too much on the dot. You know what I mean? They were saying, hey, we want to take from the rich and give to the poor. I get it. Good story, good message, but it was a little bit too on the tee. You know what I mean? It was a really good scene. I truly loved it, but I feel like they could have been a little bit more general with that without diving so deep. Just my opinion. Then we get down to that scene where you see Kylo Ren and Rey confront Snoke, and we all know what happened, which was awesome, by the way, where Snoke kind of gets betrayed by Kylo Ren. The lightsaber comes out. They're fighting those Imperial guards, or I don't know what they're called anymore. They're in the red suits. It's really cool. And then you see Kylo Ren with the one like right behind him with the lightsaber. Oh, that was awesome. I thought the scene was spectacular. A lot of action, very cool stuff, but then when I really thought about it and I read some of these, rumors and thoughts, and you think about Snoke and you're like, is that it? So Snoke's gone now? No more Snoke? To me, it's just a little bit strange. I feel like we should see more of that villain develop, and then it all ends at the end. I don't know. Maybe we'll see Kylo Ren develop in a different way. I have no idea. It just felt a little bit, rushed with Snoke. Like we see him, oh cool, who is this guy? And now he's gone. You know what I mean? Now there was that scene where Princess Leia was shot out of the cruiser and then, uses the Force to get herself back in. I understand people's feelings of, come on, really, that was too far. I had to look it up. Apparently, you can survive for 15 seconds in the vacuum of space with no spacesuit without losing consciousness. Was she out there for 15 seconds? Maybe, but it's a stretch. It is a stretch, and I can understand, folks' feelings like, come on, that's a little bit much. For me, I feel like they could have done it a little bit differently. Like she was like blasted out, but then she like could grab a rope or something, or maybe she was like in this general area and she could have just pushed a button, like floating all the way. You're losing me a little bit, just a little bit. Then we get to one of my favorite scenes in the movie, the Luke and Kylo Ren fight. That was just so cool, and one of my favorite scenes, he's going like this when he fired all those lasers at him. That was just so cool. And then when you see the lightsaber goes through Luke's chest, and you're like, oh my gosh, he gets cut in half, and he didn't really get cut in half. And my sister, when this happened, she was like this, oh my gosh, she was super shocked, oh my gosh, it's over. and sure enough, it was a projection. That was just so cool. Now, those are some of my thoughts about things that could have been done a little bit better, but overall I thought it was a spectacular, I mean spectacular movie. Now, I do understand some folks who say, Michael, this is a totally different feeling, this isn't the same Star Wars that I grew up with, and that's true, it isn't. It's a new series, and that's how I see it. It's a new series of something that I love a lot. Now, I have read some reviews of some folks who said it wasn't good at all, didn't like it, you know, it's the original that you have to follow, and they didn't do that. I don't really agree. I feel like it was a great movie. You know, it wasn't the same as the originals, but you know, it's a new direction, and I thought it was great. That being said, I am no expert movie critic. If I see a good story and fun action, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. One thing that I keep thinking about, I really like Captain Phasma, the leader of the Stormtroopers. I think she's really cool. It's a great character. And in The Force Awakens, you see her, and then apparently she goes into a garbage compactor. And then in The Last Jedi, she falls into fire. So, you know, there was a cool fight scene. It was awesome, but she falls into fire. I feel like Captain Phasma doesn't quite have a large enough role. They should give a little bit more airtime to Captain Phasma. She's just a really cool character, and they should tell us more about her. Whether it's like a training scene or something in progress, like they're chasing some rebels, something to do more with Captain Phasma, my opinion, I think would be great. Now, I have this funny feeling like we're gonna see some of the old Star Wars and some of these new Star Wars movies embedded in the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge coming to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I personally am so excited for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It's going to be fantastic to completely immerse myself in the Star Wars universe. Now, one scene I thought was just so incredible was when Vice Admiral Holden turned that ship around and went light speed and blasted through all of those ships, basically wiping out the First Order fleet. I mean, that was one of the most intense moves I have ever seen in a Star Wars movie, and the theater was like silent. I mean, there was no sound, and people were like, oh, and it was incredible. Now, since you're watching this video, that means you've seen the movie, right? Okay, I'm just making sure. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part of the movie was, or maybe you didn't care for it as much. Let me know, it's okay, in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Have a magical day.